Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode we bring you a brand new interview with one of the film industry's top directors, conducted by one of their peers. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/thedirectorscut. In this episode, we go behind the scenes of director Martin Scorsese's new film, Silence. Based on a novel by Shusaku Endo, Silence stars Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver as two Jesuit missionaries in search of their missing mentor, played by Liam Neeson. They face the ultimate test of faith when they travel to Japan, where Christianity is outlawed, to find him. The film is a passion project of Mr. Scorsese, who has spent decades trying to bring the novel to the big screen. Mr. Scorsese received both the DGA's Feature Film Award and the Academy Award for his 2006 film, The Departed, and the DGA's Dramatic Series Award for the pilot episode of Boardwalk Empire. He is an 11-time DGA Award nominee, having also received nominations for the feature films Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, The Age of Innocence, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, Hugo, and The Wolf of Wall Street, and for the documentary George Harrison, Living in the Material World. In 1999, Mr. Scorsese was presented with the Filmmaker Award at the inaugural DGA Honors Gala, and in 2003, he was honored with the DGA's Lifetime Achievement Award. Following a recent screening of Silence at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Scorsese spoke with fellow director Alexander Payne about the making of the film. Their conversation touched on Mr. Scorsese's 50-year journey to bring the film to the screen, his desire to find the simplicity in each shot of the film, and the thematic inspiration he got from the landscapes of Taipei while filming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Alex, for doing this. I know I'm keeping you up late.
All right. These events like this, early in the film's release, are kind of like a baptism for me. People gather, your community gathers to gaze upon the visage of your new child and congratulate the exhausted but hopefully very proud parent. So congratulations on this magnificent film.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Really magnificent.
Thank
It was my second time, and I got a lot more out of it even the second time. The ideas and sank in a lot more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, we really, myself and Thelma and Emma and everybody, kind of finished the film only about 2 weeks ago. You know.
When did you wrap?
Wrap?
Wrap, yeah.
I don't think we have, actually. I think, quite honestly, in the end credits with our sound effects, I think they just went out. And I said, leave it that way. Just the last 2 or 3 cards are dead silence. I said, fine. What do you want to shine it up and polish it for? Let's keep it going, I thought. And for me, it's a picture that doesn't end, I guess. It's something I've been aiming towards for so much of my life, and then it finally gets realized in this form that you see now. Meaning that over the years, it may have been, obviously would have been a very different film.
That was going to be my first question. I read that you first had the idea to make the film in 1989 when you were overshooting with Kurosawa, and you read the book. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it comes out of it comes out of my own background of Roman Catholicism in the early 50s in New York, which was a heyday of Roman Catholicism. The Cardinal Spellman rule, the whole, still the sense of the Catholic Church is going my way, you know. It's changed. But I was an altar boy. I was very much involved. There was a mentor priest that was a diocesan priest, and he was myself and many of my friends, I'm a sort of mentor between the ages of, I was 11 to 17, and he helped form my life in a way by, he was more American than Italian, so he opened our eyes and minds to the rest of to America, and taking opportunity to not continuing to live in the shackled mind of a kind of medieval village, although that has its times benefits. But with this other world that was out there past Houston Street, there was a lot out there. It gave us Graham Greene, Dwight MacDonald, Memoirs of a Revolutionist, Camus. I mean, this sort of thing. So I wanted to be like him, so I decided I'd be a priest, and asthma helped that because I couldn't really be participant in too much street activities and of any kind. In any event, I made it for about almost a year in a preparatory seminary, then was, as they say these days, invited to leave.
Was that right? Did you do that right after high school?
Within high school, first to second year, I was about 15, and wound up at Cardinal Hayes High School, which actually worked out very well. And then, so for me, these themes were themes that were something that I didn't separate from anything that I was interested in, whether it was Thomas Hardy or Broadway musicals, with Rodgers and Hammerstein or Lerner and Loewe. I mean, all this, the lyrics, or the Threepenny Opera, the Threepenny Opera, which was kind of an impression of the neighborhood I grew up in. It really was. I went to see it 2 or 3 times, and then the lyrics to the lyrics of Karma Capalbo, I think, and Mark Blitzstein version. I'm talking about in the early 50s, Theatre de Lis. But anyway, I was more. The thing is that the themes always stayed with me for all those years, and so once I was able to express myself with pictures and movies, Mean Streets has it. To a certain extent, as Paul Schrader's script of Taxi Driver has it, another perception, but it's there. Raging Bull definitely has it. And that was the end of something. And then started all over again, and that was to be Last Temptation of Christ. And when I finally got to make that, it was supposed to be made in 83, but it was canceled. So it finally came together in 88. And there was a lot of controversy, and people were condemning the film, but they hadn't seen it. So it was Tom Pollock and all of us. We all said, okay, let's just screen the picture for all the groups, And we did in an afternoon in New York. And afterwards we had a little dinner at a hotel nearby, and anyone we said who was be interested could come and join us and talk. And it was the only person who came over there. There were a couple of others, but the one who was really the most interesting was Archbishop Paul Moore of the Episcopal Church in New York of St. John the Divine. And he was there with his wife, and he had dinner with us, and we started talking, and he told us the story of his life and what he liked about the film, or the themes in the film at least. And finally he said, I have a book for you I'm going to send you. And so that's how it started. 2 days later I got the book, tried to read it, didn't get it. I really had...
Had you seen the Shinoda film?
No, I didn't even know Shinoda had made a film. And I know Shinoda from the 70s in Japan. I just saw him a few weeks ago in Tokyo. And Shinoda is one of the greats, along with Imamura and Oshima at that time. And so it took about a year or so. I got involved with Goodfellas, and I agreed to play Van Gogh in Kurosawa's film Dreams. And this was for different reasons. It's a long story, but bottom line is he asked Francis Coppola, and Coppola said, sure, Marty will do it. Just ask him, So. And so I wound up, we were overscheduled on Goodfellas, and Kurosawa was waiting in Hokkaido. And we got there, and when we finished shooting the sequence, went down to Tokyo and took a bullet train to Kyoto and finished the book on the bullet train. And I knew immediately I wanted to make it. I said, somehow I've got to make a film into this. How? What does this mean? I mean, what I mean by that is that my personal concerns in terms of religion, or if you want to call it spirituality, whatever it is, was so interlocked with Roman Catholicism and the iconography of Roman Catholicism, and temptation, examining the idea of the incarnation and examining it as Paul Moore said, Christologically correct, which is fully human and fully divine, right? Okay, so we go with that. I mean, you don't have to agree with that. I'm just saying this is where we're going, and this is what we believe in. So, having done that, there was more to go. There's more. I don't know where. And it's got to go deeper, and maybe you're too self-absorbed. You're, a wild, making films in this crazy world and everything else. But there was something that happens at the end of the story that indicated that there is more to know, obviously, but more than you ever thought. That particularly since you've seen the film, I could talk about it. The apostasy of Rodriguez, rather than being a defeat in terms of his Christianity, is he finally gets it. He finally understands it, and I didn't know what that meant. And I started working on a script with Jay Cox. The Vittorio and Mario Cecchigori got us the rights at the time in 1990, and we got only third or halfway through the script, and I couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it in what way?
I didn't know where it was going. I got involved with the politics. I got involved with the cultural clash. I got involved with Catholic theories, or not theories, but dogma. Particularly the political situation in Catholic Europe and the invasion, so to speak, of missionaries in the Far East, the well-intentioned zeal, which unfortunately was also a form of violence too towards the Asian, and so all of this. There were so many things that I loved in the book, and I loved particularly the idea of his Calvary, his Stations of the Cross, so to speak. But then I'm saying, well, then again, he regards himself as Christ. That's not right. We have to get past that. And I always want to make a story about a person who becomes a cleric, who becomes someone who supposedly selfless and is a pastor, so to speak, who he or she would have to first get past their selves, their pride, before they can open up really to other people. And this was a fascinating, and somehow all that was coming together. I was going to do it in a modern world, but it was coming together in this story. And so we got involved with the script that way, stopped doing it, and when we did, it was a long story then of a combination of two different things. One, the Italians got mad at me, and they were going to sue me for not making the film. And I kept saying, I have a script, I'll be right there. And I didn't, And my representative at the time said, do you really want to keep going with this thing? I said, yeah. And that got more complicated because one of the Italians, one of the owners of the property was incarcerated, became a senator, incarcerated in jail. And it was right before Berlusconi took over. And anyway, this went on until finally I tried again. I kept rereading the book and rereading it. The book fell into the hands of some people who were working for the other Italians, and they claimed they owned the rights, and they started extorting money from us. And this goes on, and my agents and managers saying, do you want to do this? Do you want to pursue this? I said, yeah, there's something about it. And I kept working on the book and writing notes and getting involved with getting involved with Shinto, actually. I'm trying to understand that, or what Liam Neeson says in the film, which is what Endo says, is that the Japanese can't conceive of anything that transcends the human. That's in the book. And I said, what is that? How do you, that's interesting. And then because I going to Kyoto and going to the Japanese inns and realizing that the garden there's no distinction between the room and the garden. The idea of reading, my wife at the time gave me Tanazaki's book, In Praise of Shadows, where he talks about the emptiness. So we consider, a Westerner may consider a Japanese house empty. He said, but if you sit there at a certain place, or almost any part of the room, it changes all day because of the light. I say, the idea of we in the West like shiny bathrooms and that sort of thing. Everything is the other way, where it has where the patina is more important. So it's another way of thinking, another way. All this went on for many years. In the meantime, trying to hold them at bay, and I'll try to wind this up as fast as I can. But it became so complicated, and then I was able to finally, and I think it took till 2005 until I departed to understand that Departed was a movie that it was interesting situation because by the time that film ends, everybody's killed. They're all informers. There's no morality. It's all moral ground zero. And I said, I can't do another picture that we have to come up from this somehow. You know, whether it's a good movie or bad or mediocre, that's aside the point. It's making the picture. It's living with it. It's living with it, right? So you got to live with the characters. You also have, the way I've done it over the years, you behave like the characters. You, in a sense, you think like them. So with those things in your mind, after a while, you know, it's a very difficult thing. The other thing that shaped finally the writing of the script was just living. I must say, it was 1999, 2000, new child, and a child at an older age is somewhat different from my two older daughters. When you're younger, family, illnesses, parents dying. So all of these changes somehow worked together to finally made me realize that the picture had to be something stripped down and pure, if I can get to it, visually too. And also to take away the references to Japanese cinema. You know, in other words, I had thought, I can only frame the way Ichikawa framed the beginning of this film called Harakiri. Just look at the frames in the title sequence alone. Or he made this film Samurai Rebellion, which the film is better than the title, but it has it's really quite good. Mifune and
One
Nakadai.
of my favorites.
Yeah, isn't that thing amazing? And the opening sequences, just the shots are amazing. I said, wow, that's what it's got to look like. And I don't do that. I'm not Japanese. I don't do it. I don't think that way. I don't see that way. And so ultimately I had to relinquish that. I had to let go of everything, really, and let it come to me. And so in 2006, the end of 2006, Jay Cox and I got together and we wrote the script finally in about a few weeks.
So in a way, it's the film was made when, in a way, it was supposed to be made. That it's a different film now from what it would have been 27 years ago, and maybe you prefer what it became now.
Oh, I certainly do, and I do think it was a matter of dealing with a number of things, and one of which is a sense of claustrophobia as opposed to being tedious. Then opening up in vistas, and then more claustrophobia is in this cell, you know. And it was very funny because it was myself and Rodrigo Prieto and David Webb. Is he here? David?
There he is. Hi, David. Assistant director.
Oh,
Great assistant director.
Yes, he had an amazing job. Amazing job. And throughout earthquakes and typhoons, he was always very calm. But we'd go and we'd aim, and I said, I have designed the shot, move it this way, and they cut from here to here. And we realized that no matter where you cut in that cell with the bars, you know, it looks like you're in the same place. So that makes you think, what's really important here? What's important is if you're shooting on the back of Rodriguez, then maybe he should be a little three-quarter, you know, and then punch around to a close-up, you know, and this sort of thing. And that's the way it had to be designed. But the key thing, I think, really was trying to find a simplicity. I don't know if I got it as far as, in a way we did. I mean, I imagined incredible shots of mountains and that sort of thing. And finally, when we got to Taiwan, and we did the location scout there, after many years of other location scouts in other parts of the world, when I got to when they took me to the tops of these mountains, and I do have to reiterate, it is funny, but like I'm a Manhattan, you know, when I lived out here for 13 years, I had cowboy boots. It was great, you know, but in Manhattan, you know, put me in a building, elevator, bring me up 34th floor, thank you. That's it. So they had people helping me and getting me up because as you're getting older, it's a little tricky. You put your foot the wrong way on the wrong rock. And you snap your ankle in the middle of nowhere. So you had to be very careful. And so when I looked on the mountaintop too, especially where that hut was, and Dante said, I think we could build the hut here. And I said, well, it's far. And I looked over and I saw, place the camera here. It's telling us what to do. Now put the actors through it. And we went with that. They were designed editing sequences, there's no doubt, but usually those are the ones I'm discussing in the jail cells or the For example, in his cell in Macau, when he's writing that letter and he's saying, I think of Jesus' face, the face I saw at Evora, etc. I see his face, and we cut not to Jesus' face, but to Rodriguez's face, and suddenly he's in bed and he's looking. Again, that's his identification with Jesus, which is his undoing, ultimately. And then when do you cut to the full face of Jesus? And they were asking me, is the Jesus face painted on the wall? I said, no, it's face of Jesus. You cut to it. You just cut to it. Well, what about the background? It doesn't matter. The background doesn't matter. I said, that's what he sees. It's what he knows. And it cuts on the line, feed my lambs, and then cut, feed my sheep. And I get chills to think of it, these eyes. It became, choosing which image of Jesus to use. It was that kind of simplicity we were going for. We found that we were able, with visual effects, to make bigger shots of the Macau harbor, but never use them. Never use them. It doesn't matter where they are. They're in a place where they can be, and then they go to a place where they're not supposed to be. Simple.
I heard it was a really hard, I didn't hear from David necessarily, but I heard it was a difficult and somewhat arduous production period. Is that true? You suggested it was very physically exhausting.
Yes.
What was it like?
Well, Taipei was great. I mean, the city is beautiful, and I don't know, it's just the people were amazing, and we did have some sets in a studio. Not interior, but exterior that were built, and so working in the studio closer to the hotel, it wasn't so bad. But the mud was quite. I'm not used to that kind of thing. Particularly, I tend to be impulsive on set, so I jump up usually after each shot. You can't jump with mud. You can't. I literally, at one time, they would take me and I'd move and my boot would come off. And I couldn't get to, it was like one of those dreams where you can never get to somebody, and they're speaking in Japanese, and then the Chinese crew. And Australia, so, at that point you learn, calm. If you're complaining about any of it, don't complain. This is what you wanted. This is what you do. Just shut up, do your work. And go with it. Go with it. I mean, go with when it began to get hot, that was hard. That was a problem. The last 2 weeks of shooting, but the actual climbing and the scenes in the tank were pretty controlled in Taichung. But the actual mountain. Once we got to those mountaintops, I got to tell you, the second week of shooting, we did that scene up on the mountaintop where they were all kneeling in a circle in prayer. It's before Mokichi has to go down to the village and be taken. And it starts to rain. And once I saw that wide shot, I stood a little, David, and I had a guy named Tony from New Zealand who would help me up. He said, come along, sir. And he'd take a big guy. And I looked down. I said, well, that's the shot. That's the scene. That's the movie. It's the prayer. And the landscape gave us that, and the positioning. And by the way, the Japanese actors, along with, of course, Andrew and Adam, but the relationship of Andrew and Adam to the Japanese actors, they were always very. They were never really out of character, in a sense. They were always on whenever you needed them to be. So they were like an anchor for us.
And they're phenomenal. Your Japanese cast is just off the hook. Can you talk about casting them?
We cast most of them in 2009, and one of the that was the closest we had gotten to making the film, and then that canceled too. But 2009, we went to Japan. We went to Nagasaki. Dante, Ferretti, Emma, Ellen Lewis, and we met Eriko Miyagawa. And she became our translator and kind of assistant to us in translating to the Japanese actors. But we went to Nagasaki, went to Satomi. Satomi is the village outside of Nagasaki that Tomoji is based upon, that Endo, the writer, based it on. And in Satomi, there's a Endo museum. And that day was a beautiful day, and there was no fog of any kind, and we just were on the balcony, and we could see on the terrace, and we could see way out. They said, see those little dots out there? That's Goto. And so these were the places and the atmosphere, the way the trees, the types of trees. I began to understand more about the trees. And so back in Tokyo, Ellen was working with a Japanese casting agent, and we met all these actors that you see in the film, particularly Issei Ogata, who plays Inoue, who's this guy. Have you ever seen this incredible? This guy is amazing. He came in. He was in 2009. The way he moved and what he did. He transformed himself right in front of us. So Ellen and I looked at him and said, "Go this way."
Never thought of the character in that way before.
Yeah.
Before he walked in.
Yeah, never. And on top of that, I see on the list the name Shinya Tsukamoto. I said, Shinya Tsukamoto. I know that name. Is that the guy who did Tetsuo, the Iron Man, back in the 80s? That black and white, crazed, hallucinatory, avant-garde, I don't know what, And then he made this other thing, which I don't know what, a sort of black and white film called The Snake of June, and with a woman, Cora.
The Snake of June?
A Snake of June. It's very, very beautiful. And he's out. He was like an avant-garde filmmaker. His last film he did was another version of Fires on the Plain. Wow. They showed in Venice. And he also acted as Ichi the Killer in that crazy Miike film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I said, that's not the same guy. It can't be. And I looked at them and I said, it is. What's he doing here? And he came in, and I looked at him. I said, but you're a master. I said, you know. And he was trembling. And his tears were in his eyes. And he said, I must do this. I said, okay, come on in. And he played Mokichi beautifully. He was, I think, he really, really did. We had a number of Japanese directors acting in it. The one who's the one of the samurai in the moment where he's talking, they're interrogating Rodriguez for the first time, and they're all out in the courtyard, and the one who says, my English is bad, and then he starts speaking in Japanese. He's a director of kind of wild avant-garde horror films. His name is Sabu. And then there's Ryo Kaso, who plays Juan, who gets beheaded. And I'm forgetting one other. But there are a number of directors who just came in and started working with us. Yeah.
I'm being given 1 minute, but I have one more question.
Sorry.
I think you have to get to your PGA thing. You're well known. You talked about wanting to get rid of your references to Japanese films that you would have wanted to get in there or imitate or be inspired by. However, you are known for showing films to your cast and crew in pre-production, and I'm wondering what you might have shown them.
Well, the only one I showed, not necessarily the cast, just my crew was Ugetsu.
Recently restored, by the way.
Recently restored by Karakawa, and who's distributing this film in Japan, and the Film Foundation. So we were able to restore it. And in the restoration of this black and white film, which was the early 50s, we were able to have, there was this great cinematographer named Kawatsu Miyagawa. And anything he did was like poetry. And his assistant cameraman's still alive. He was able to grade the film with us. He was there. He made a drawing of each shot, knowing where the light was coming from. And the problem was the generations, the original negative was not in very good shape, and it was a matter of the grays, lights, and the darks, and that sort of thing. But Ugetsu was the first Japanese film I saw, and it was on television in New York, dubbed in English. And I had never seen anything quite like it. And that led me to Kurosawa, and of course, by that point, there was a massive influx of Japanese cinema and Japanese culture by late 50s. So that was the only one. And we do, there is obvious references to it in the boat scenes at night that we shot in a tank. This is the mist we had there, but we added just a little. And the drum as a beat. And the sense of mystery that he doesn't know where he's really going. They're losing the other guys in the boat, and he says, we're losing them, and nobody answers him. So that was definitely, we had those images on the set on a computer, and I'd show the position of the boat and that sort of thing.
And in the conception of the film, now that you're, if you don't mind my saying, standing fully beside them, did you think about Bergman and Dreyer at all with films about faith and about silence?
Well, Bergman, of course, I mean, the first Bergman film I saw, I guess, was Seventh Seal, which was a big impact, and then Wild Strawberries, and Smiles of a Summer Night too, but I was, 14. I didn't get it. So I never quite got it. Later on, yes, but when the first I didn't quite understand. The Bergman films, the trilogy particularly, the one that with Winter Light.
Yeah, Silence and Winter Light.
Silence and Winter Light and Through a Glass Darkly. Yeah. When she says God is a spider. And she's having this breakdown in this room, and it was absolutely terrifying. She hears a helicopter, and she imagines God as a spider. And then particularly the ending of Winter Light, where this minister has to go to a church way out of where he lives, far away, and a series of things occur. Bottom line is there's I would think, a story about doubt, a religious doubt, very strongly, that nobody, people say not many people come to your rituals anymore, and that sort of thing. It doesn't matter. But I believe Bergman's father was a minister, and so Gunnar Borgstam plays it very straight. And by the end of the film, he finally gets to the church he's supposed to be doing this ceremony, and after all this drama in the picture, he comes out in his chasuble and turns and looks at the church, and the church is empty. He goes on with the ceremony. I said, wow. That's quite beautiful. That's quite beautiful. He has to go on with the ceremony. And then, of course, Dreyer is, for me, it's Ordette and Day of Wrath. But Ordette, mainly. Ordette's the one that I saw once in late 1968, and can't see it again. It's too good. It's too moving and too disturbing, and I don't know what. I just can't watch it. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing.
We're getting the bums rush, and I know you have to go to. He has one more event this evening. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this DGA Q&A. Check out past episodes of the podcast by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts or on our website at dga.org/podcast. We'll have a lot more episodes coming your way over the next several weeks, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Director's Cut on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or our SoundCloud page so you won't miss an episode. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for listening, and have a great week. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.